Kirby, how's it going, man?
What's up, fellas? I can't believe you had me on. Is the title of the show is MLB dying and you bring me on?
Well, you're the what are those devices? AED? Is that what it is? Where you shock the heart, you get that blood pumping again. You are the life beat of the MLB here in this city. Kirby, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, so Kirby, we might have to. He's got to be a dad today, so he said that there might be some kids interrupting the show, which is fine. Dad duties come first, but most importantly, the Reds made a move last night, and you were very excited, getting Will Benson from the Cleveland Guardians, another potential spot to platoon in that outfield. What do you like about this move?
Well, I think he fits really well at Great American Ballpark. Big power bat, high on base guy. Definitely some flaws with his game. Not going to hit for a high average. But for what the Reds gave up for him, a player that was a second-round pick that was a long way away from playing in MLB, I think it really fits where the Reds are at, and I think really gives the Reds a pretty decent outfield. After going into the offseason, it looked like there was no outfielders. Now they got Will Myers. Now they got Benson, and I think they could really kind of piece together an outfield that is at least competitive.
So, yeah, if, from the outside looking in, you look at this Reds team, there's a lot to be excited about the rotation. There's a lot to be excited about the infield. The outfield just kind of seemed like a hodgepodge. You get Will Myers as a veteran bat, but the ceiling seemed to be the lowest for that outfield. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I really like Jake Fraley. I think Jake Fraley is has really proven that he can hit right-handed pitching at a really good level. He's done that for his entire career in MLB, and he also had really good splits in the minors his last several years. So, I mean, I think you could really on opening day have three outfielders, especially if you're facing a right-handed pitcher, that you feel really good about.
I think you put out a tweet yesterday about Will Benson's AAA last year. Absolutely mashed at AAA last year. I think his OPS plus was like 150, somewhere around that range. Correct me if I'm wrong.
158.
So for those who don't know, OPS plus, it's kind of a more advanced metric. It, in short, takes the league average of OPS and puts in some other factors. Your on-base plus slugging puts in some other factors like the ballpark you play in, and then gives you a nice round number. 100 is the league average. So you said 158, meaning he is 58% better amongst all AAA batters. Obviously struggled at the MLB level, but this ceiling, he's a big physical guy, 6'5", 230 pounds, left-handed hitter here at Great American Ballpark. This is a potential, at least on the outlook, for another potential 30 home run guy for the Reds. Is that his ceiling?
Yeah, I mean, I would say so. I don't know if he'll be able to play regularly against left-handed pitching. So, that might skew like his overall home run total. But if it was like a 162 game pace, yeah, maybe I would say 30 is probably realistic. Thing I also like about him is he can play all three outfield positions.
Yeah.
He did play center field last year for the Guardians. I think he had 6 starts. He got called up and played very sporadically. They were in a playoff chase. He was just kind of like an extra dude on their roster. So I don't want to make excuses for how, bad his numbers looked last year, but it wasn't like he got called up and, hey, he was thrown in the lineup every day. He was really given every chance to succeed. He was just a fill-in guy. Another thing I really like about him is his sprint speed that was calculated would be the fastest on the Reds right now.
Wow. If you're David Bell, how do you think he's going to handle this platoon in the outfield? You got Fraley, Myers, Benson, some other guys. I think Fairchild and Solak are those the other two guys that could possibly platoon out there. How would you think platoon's going to work?
Well, it's going to be a mix and match. I know like platoon's like a dirty word for a lot of fans, but I mean, There's a lot of really good teams that have used platoons. I know that the 2020 and 2021 world champions both had Jock Peterson in a platoon role. So yeah. I think, platoons can be successful, especially if you're in a case like the Reds, where you don't have the same budget as some of these other teams. You've got to find this value. I think Solak is a really interesting player, has some really good numbers against left-handed pitching. the question becomes, do you have enough roster spots to platoon like 3 outfield positions? That's where I think it becomes a little more tough. But yeah, I mean, I think David Bell will probably platoon a lot. Will Myers will also probably play maybe some first base. There's also Joey Votto might also not be ready for opening day, and Will Myers might be playing first base every day too. So that could also kind of get factored into this as well.
Where do you sit in the camp for Tyler Stevenson moving away from the catcher role?
You keep him at catcher as long as you possibly can. I've said this many times before. Tyler Stevenson is an elite hitting catcher. He's an average, slightly above average hitting first baseman. So you ride him out at catcher as long as he can. Now, if the doctors are telling you, like, for his well-being, he needs to be moved off of catcher, then it's a totally different story. But I have not heard anything to that yet. So, I mean, when you're the Reds, you're trying to find as much value as you can out of each player at their best position. You need Tyler Stevenson value at catcher as long as you possibly can.
Yeah, that's a good point. He's an elite hitting catcher. He's a good to above average hitting first baseman. You look at, if you stack up the catcher's best numbers, best catchers in the league, JT Realmuto, Will Smith, Sean Murphy, you stack them up against their first baseman on their team, they're probably not even a better hitter than their own first baseman. So that's a very good point. Kirby, let's take this relationship to the next level. I think we've got a good little ongoing thing here. Finish this sentence for me. Elly De La Cruz is the best Reds prospect since.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, probably since Jay Bruce would be.
I was thinking Bruce.
If you're talking prospect, I think he's got a higher ceiling than Bruce just because he can play shortstop. I mean, Jay Bruce was a right fielder, so you can only have so much value playing right field. Yeah, I mean, I think he may be the best, like, overall talent since maybe like Larkin or Davis, possibly.
Right.
But just in terms of like prospect rankings, I think Bruce is the easy answer.
So, fun fact about Elly De La Cruz: we were out in Kansas City, obviously going to the AFC Championship game, and they heard that we were from Cincinnati. And I swear to God, someone stopped us and said, "All right, football aside, are you guys excited for this Elly De La Cruz?" So people out in Kansas City know about Elly De La Cruz. That's how big of a prospect he is. If you look at this team, and I think what's the over-under on wins, 66, there's not a whole lot that people are looking to happen this year. You're just kind of building a foundation. But that being said, who's the biggest wild card in this starting lineup, in this rotation, that if they have an outburst or a great season, that this Reds team can compete every day, day in and day out?
If you're talking like players on the opening day roster, probably maybe like Spencer Steer.
Yeah.
If he's able to, be like a maybe a 4-win player, if you're looking at wins above replacement, I think that. If you're talking maybe players that are on the cusp of making the big leagues, I would say maybe Christian Encarnacion Strand. He's a guy that I think will debut this year for the Reds. His offensive numbers, just pure hitting, were about the same as Elly De La Cruz. But he's probably going to end up being a first baseman. So he doesn't, climb up as high on the prospect rankings. But he has a chance to be a really, really special hitter for the Reds. So he's another guy he's one of the guys I'm most excited about when he does get called up.
Where are you at on Jose Barrero? He was a name that came up a couple years ago as this exciting shortstop, and he popped up, had a good week, but really has struggled at the plate. I imagine he's going to be the starting shortstop to begin this year. Before Elly De La Cruz comes up, I imagine they're going to do what the Cubs did with Chris Bryant and bring up De La Cruz at May or late April. Is Jose Barrero going to be the starting shortstop, and are you out on him?
I wouldn't say I'm out on him. I mean, he was like a legit top 25 prospect in baseball like a year and a half ago. So I think if you give up on a guy that quick, it's kind of silly. I haven't seen also any like real signs to be super optimistic about what he can do. I think he's going to get every chance to be the opening day starting shortstop, but they also got Kevin Newman as an insurance plan in case he goes to spring and looks as bad as he looked at the plate the last couple months of the season. So, I mean, but really, I mean, for him, it's now or never. I mean,
Right.
If you want a starting job, you're going to have to take it, because it's not just Ellie De La Cruz. There's also a whole bunch of other guys behind him that are coming that want starting jobs. So, I hope he doesn't end up being a, 4A player or backup shortstop, but that's probably where he's trending, unless he just has a complete overhaul at the beginning of this season.
Kirby, we love talking Reds with you. We happen to have Paul's got a question.
I got one for you, but this is not baseball related. This is Nick Kirby related. Nick, this is your first time on the show, and I've seen some people write in and ask. Just tell the people who you are, what you've done with the Reds. I have a feeling this might not be your last time here on the Chatterbox Network. So kind of give the people an intro of who you are and what you've done with the Reds before.
Yeah, so I just am a Reds fan that follows this team way more than anyone else. I started writing for a site called Red Leg Nation back in 2013. I had been writing for them since then. I started a podcast a couple years ago with a couple of my buddies. Make some weird videos, some hype videos and stuff like that, and just love the Reds, and been following them. I actually live in Cleveland, the Cleveland area, so I follow them from afar, but Twitter and stuff like this kind of helps me stay connected with the team.
I think you're selling yourself a little short, Kirby.
Yeah, Kirby.
I think you're selling yourself a little short for the amount of coverage that you have given our beloved Cincinnati Reds over the last 5 years or more.
Well, my tweets are featured on Bleacher Report. I don't know how that happened. Anytime I use the word Reds, it gets put on the Bleacher Report feed. I have no idea. I didn't sign up for it. I should be getting paid for it, I think, but
should be getting royalties.
Yeah.
Big brother Bleacher Report stealing that money from our boy
Yeah.
Curbs. It feels like this Reds team feels like Twilight a bit, right? There's these two competing really good young starters. Are just like Team Jacob and Team Edward. Are you Team Lodolo or are you Team Hunter Green?
Oh, that's tough. I'm going to cop out, and then I'll promise I'll give you a real answer at the end. Okay, so I think Hunter Green has the higher ceiling, no question. I think Hunter Green has a chance to be the best pitcher in baseball. Will he get there? I don't know. I don't think Lodolo has the potential to be the best pitcher in baseball, but I think Nick Lodolo is safer to be a really good all-star level starter, if that makes sense. I would say Hunter Green just because I'm going to go with a higher upside guy, but I kind of want to make sure I give that caveat that I think Lodolo is the safer pitch.
So I've been on this take for a while there that the Atlanta Braves are absolutely laying a blueprint for some of these traditionally non-bigger market teams. And by that, I mean they're getting young, talented players, and they're locking them up long term. And they're getting them for 6-7 years, taking a risk that, these guys, we might be paying these guys 7 years, $70 million, and they might turn out to be nothing. But they're taking a risk by when their rookie contracts are up, we're not having to pay them $200 million. Would you like to see the Reds lock up guys like Hunter Green, Nick Lodolo, Jonathan India, Tyler Stevenson? Would you like them to take that Braves route?
Yeah, 100%. I definitely think that's a much better move for the Reds than going out and spending $300 million on someone like Carlos Correa. I think that I think the Reds got very fortunate that the Joey Votto contract turned out as well as it did. I don't necessarily think they should be looking to do those type of deals over and over and over again. I do think they still have to be very strategic with who they sign. I just don't think you can just lock up everyone because then you could also get yourself in a whole bunch of bad contracts. And it also, the thing people have to remember is if you start paying these guys more now, then it's going to hurt what you can spend on short-term free agency. So you also have to kind of weigh all those factors in. But I'm totally with you. I would much rather the Reds lock up Ellie De La Cruz right now than go out and sign some $300 million contract.
Yeah, people see the Braves do it with Ozzie Albies, Austin Riley, all these names that are young guys and just locking them up before their rookie contract's over. But there has been some duds. The Phillies famously signed Scott Kingery before he even played in the MLB, and that has been a complete flop. I believe they gave him $80 million, and he hasn't turned out to be even a serviceable Major League Baseball player. So that's the risk you take, but then you get Ozzie Albies on a $90-100 million deal when he should be worth about $200 million. So it is risky, and you're right. The blueprint has been laid by Major League teams where you get this young group of guys, and then you supplement it with these veterans to really fill in the gaps of this team. If you had to put a timeline on the Reds to when they're going to be competing again, when is it?
I would say, I think 2024 is realistic. You hope there's not a bunch of setbacks this year, and then you kind of have to push it back another year. That's a possibility. I'm not going to lie and act like it isn't. But I do think the Reds are going to have quite a bit of money to spend in free agency. Hopefully, like that Bally Sports Ohio dispute is over by then. I think that also might be holding the Reds back some. But Joey Votto is off the books. Ken Griffey Jr. is actually off the books.
Finally!
Mike Moustakas, who's not even on the team, is off the books. So they are going to have quite a bit of money to spend. And I would expect, as long as there is some positive signs this year, that they will at least be spending some money in free agency. It's probably not going to be as much as some people want, but I would be really surprised if they didn't at least make some big splashes.
Kirby, I hear the kids in the background. How many kids you got?
I got 2. They've been so good all day, and then decided to be rotten when I try to hop on.
It's all right. I'll let you go be dad. Thank you for coming on. Hopefully we can have you on again before Thom comes back.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, guys.
Yep. See you, Curbs.